I was getting to a busy phase in the build, and there was a lot to do. This also happened to be where the cost of the refurb really started piling up. Thankfully, padding out drywall with rock wool insulation isn't hard, so I eased myself into this next phase by doing that. Ideally, builders know what they're doing, and the centers between the studs would be 40 centimeters wide, allowing for whole insulation slabs to fit snugly in between them. In my case they didn't, and the slabs needed to be cut to size. Unnecessary? Sure. Annoying? Oh yes. But not the end of the world either. Oh, I also built a timber frame around the toilet cistern to have a solid structure to screw baseboard into. And that is the toilet frame that you just saw me put in. And the walls covered with baseboard, which is this stuff here, 12 millimeters thick, a fiberglass sort of composite outer layer, and a hard foam inner core. Very strong, very rigid, and very light as well, so it's an ideal substitute for what would have otherwise been really heavy green plasterboard. Green meaning waterproof. And I'm by no means done putting this in, and these are the really tricky bits. Now this wall here is the one that has quite a bit of a curve in it. It really is time to close up these last few bits that are still open. This one down here, the one around the toilet cistern, the door and such. So I'll get on with that. Now these boards are fairly easy to work with. Just make some mark. Where needed. The cutter punches pretty much right through, and that should be all that's needed to cut this piece to size. Okay. Now, having such a T-square that is 120 meters, 1.2 meters long, it's ideal for cutting sheet materials. Also comes in quite handy for this stuff or insulation. Now where's the other mark? Hopefully that'll fit nicely. Let's see. Just take a dress rehearsal. And I've got to shave a little bit off the side there, just a little bit. Like that. Yeah, there we go. Now to screw these in place, I just use standard 4x40mm deck screws to hold them into the timber frame. And I use these they're like little discs that prevent me from putting the screw right through the board, because it isn't actually that hard or dense. It really is just two very, very thin boards of fiberglass and hard foam on the inside, and I can punch through that with a butter knife if I want to. So these guys here prevent the screw from going through and apply a greater area of pressure against this board and keep it in place. There we go, that's that bit closed, easy as that. Now these bits up here on the other hand are a little bit harder to work on because the timber frame here is uneven, it's not plumb. I really didn't want to rip it all out or sister up these studs. So what I've done instead is I've used so far, I've been using these spacers here. They come in different thicknesses and they're color coded, right? So I got these from Amazon Germany. Okay, so because this, for example, this stud here sits in way deeper. This sits in about a centimeter. So I've used a 10 mil spacer. This, on the other hand, I think is only, so this is, the green is 5 mil, the white is 1, so that's 6 mil deep. And then there's another depth up here. And the good thing is you can mix and match these as needed to adapt them to the crooked studs. And as a case in point, just how versatile these things are and how uneven or not straight stud work can be. There's all kinds of different thicknesses and spaces that I'm employing here. The obvious drawback to using the plastic shims is of course that the baseboard isn't always in full contact with the stud work, which can be a structural weakness. If pushed hard enough, the baseboard will flex. But unlike in the rest of the Ensuite, these joints are sealed with tape and adhesive, which, once hardened, adds a bit of stability. If at some stage in the future this becomes a problem, I may have to open this wall back up and redo it. But that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. The toilet cistern is now nice and hidden behind that baseboard wall construction. The timber frame is screwed into the floor as well as the surrounding stud work and is absolutely solid. Now the last missing bit of baseboard is down here, where I think I was a little hasty in putting the insulation in, because I will still need to make some holes to be able to fit pipes that are going to supply the future radiator in the main bedroom. That radiator is supposed to sit between the doors here and probably only 60 centimeters wide. I think like 160 by 60 is probably the measurement I'm going for. And because I'm using a H block as the valve at the bottom, I need to decide where to make a hole, and because they're all normed to be 50 mil apart from the centers of the water supplies, I need to make 2 holes here so I can fit pipes from the wall in here, because previously I had those pipes sticking out of the floor. I don't want to repeat that. So they're supposed to come out of the wall, and that means I have to route the pipes, which I'm gonna use flexible armored hose pipe. They have to come through the wall and then go back into the subfloor, and then I'll have to connect them to the pipework here. So there's one connection there and one connection here. So that's something I still have to do. But I think in order for me to be able to close the wall, what I really need to do is get the pipe into the wall from the other side, and then I can always connect them to my main supply here later. That's a good thing that I put in really wide reinforcements, because they do give me some leeway to adjusting my plans from originally a 180 radiator to a 160, and there's still enough wood here in the back to screw that into. Now I have decided that this is going to be the lower edge of my radiator, just to give me enough room, kind of like about 6 centimeters error for the wall anchors that are eventually going to hold the radiator in place. So that's my bottom edge, and then about 5 centimeters down is usually where the H-blocks connectors are, and it's down here. So I'm just going to make sure I'm going to draw a level line down there. Now, what I need is 2.5 centimeters from the center to each side. That gives me 50 mil, and that is the distance between the center of each of the pipe connectors. So I'm going to punch my holes through there now, run the pipes in. Now before I do that, quickly take the insulation back out. Now while the pipe itself is 1/2 inch, which is I think 12.5 millimeters, the fitting itself, it's on the pipe, is about 1 inch, which is 25 mils or so. So I know that in a hole that I've drilled with this, fitting just about fits through. So this is what I'm going to use to punch a hole through the plasterboard. Right, quickly jotted myself 2 markers in there. There's the center points for my drill hole. Here we go. And of course, my battery is pretty much dying. This is looking much friendlier. Well, that went well. I'm such a jackass. Of course, the joist that I've marked here is only on this side. Of course, the joist that runs into the other room is under here, which is why I'll be drilling into that joist now. So, I'm just gonna set myself a new starter point. And now to test that the pipes actually do fit through those holes. Would be a damn shame if they didn't. So this is what I mean. I think these are 1.20 meters long, or thereabouts, or could be 1.5 meters, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, fits without any issues. And that fits through there. Okay, that's not too bad. Now I get the other one. So that's what this side looks like. Of course, I don't need these to come out all that far. They only need to stick out, I think, about 3 centimeters at most. Let's go here, come all the way back in there. Again, the real mission here is to be able to close this wall up. Okay, so I have to make some cuts. They are now. We're sitting comfortably. In my insulation. Now just eyeball this with a bit of luck though. That'll just be what I needed. Yeah. that seemed to have done the trick. Jam those back in there. Okay, yeah, not too bad. Right, and now to fit the last baseboard on the wall. The next step in this bathroom project is to clad the floor in that baseboard. So what I've done is I've made a mark, measured and drawn this line right down the length of the bathroom, because those boards are 120 in length and this bathroom has more than 120 in width. I can't just use one board to cover the entire width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to halve boards down the length, and they're going to cover this strip here. That's exactly 30 centimeters. And then I'm going to cut bits off the width of those boards, and they're going to go width to width in this bit here. Also, I've measured to make sure kind of the joints between the baseboard are not going to be right on top of the joints between my plywood sheets. There's one step missing here that I hadn't filmed, and that was priming the plywood. That primer ensures a good bond between the tile adhesive and the timber. I ran out of grey adhesive halfway down and had to switch to white, but other than being a different colour, this made no difference, at least as far as I could tell. I poured liquid tinking membrane into a paint tray and brushed this over all the visible screw heads and baseboard joints. The baseboard is waterproof, and this membrane will help seal the gaps and holes and prevent water from seeping in. And then I applied a stretchy sealant tape on top of the membrane layer and brushed more membrane around the tape. And this is what that looks like in close-up. So the first layer that is applied to these construction boards here, and then you have the second layer, which is this neoprene tape with the mesh trims or mesh sides. That's put on top, and then you apply another layer of liquid membrane, because that those two liquid layers sort of form one. That creates the waterproof seal here around these joints. Now this is what all those joints between the construction boards taped up with sealing tape and liquid tinking membrane looks like. So all those joints should now be waterproof. Now the next step is to first dry fit and then permanently fit the shower tray there. This will need to be glued in with tile adhesive, and before I do that, I have to fix this bit of sealing tape that has kind of like this adhesive strip here. This is going to sit against the wall, so that this sealant strip here then sticks out from that, seals up against the wall, so any water that does get behind the tiles will ultimately just seep back into the shower tray. Right. This was a bit of a faff, but I've got it done in the end. Now I'll just take these flappy bits down until I'm good and ready to glue them to the wall. Okay, and that's that. Right, now I'll get the shower tray back into waiting position. These ones are here, just into the corner. Okay, 50 kilos. Now, using regular flexible toilet adhesive and a 6mm notch trowel. 6 mil should give me the necessary depth. Apart from being heavy, the shower tray went into its destination without a hitch. I shimmied it into position on the wet adhesive and then spread the leftovers on the walls to bed the tray seal and tape into. The last step of this phase was connecting the shower trap to the tray. And that's it. The next phase is tiling, but all in good time. Right, now I'm just going to let the tile adhesive dry